I have returned to Silent Hill. But I'm not looking for my lost love. No, I've returned because not even more than not even a couple of weeks since the official trailer for the new Return to Silent Hill movie came out. This movie is based on Silent Hill 2, the video game, and it's coming out in January. Well, now they've released a brand new official international trailer, which is an all new trailer. It's a longer trailer, a much better trailer in my opinion. And of course, well, I got to do what I've been doing this whole time. I got to do a deep dive of it and go through all the details and just see what I can pick up as a super fan of this game, this series since around 2001 is when I first played Silent Hill 2, my first Silent Hill game. So I'm just going to dive in and offer what I can pick up and my excitement and possible disappointment. Who knows what? Let's just go into the details and see what we can find and have some fun here.
James, so much time has passed. Something's happened. Please come back to our place. Love, Mary.
Hello? Can anyone hear me?
You're not from here, are you?
I'm looking for someone.
Everyone got sick in Silent Hill. You really never heard about any of this? James.
We have to get to her before it's too late.
You did it, didn't you, Jimmy? You woke him up.
All that darkness, you can't give it away.
Where is she?
No one said it would be easy.
What you're doing, it won't be enough to save her. You don't know what kind of hell you have to face.
Mary. They keep telling me to move on. No matter what it takes, I won't let go.
So there you go. So that is in my opinion, a much better trailer. You know, it gives a better impression. It's not going for super, flashy. I mean, it is, but it's got Akira's music, a more somber, tone, if you will, throughout parts of that. And that's music is all new music. It's not actually from the original or the remake. It was never actually used in those games, but that music was included with the Silent Hill 2 remake official soundtrack, the extras, which is a whole bunch of music that we never really heard in the game. And I mean, they've done that before. I remember when I bought Silent Hill 4, there was extra music from that soundtrack. So it's not unusual for them to do that. But yeah, I mean, all I could say is that as a fan, that is a much better trailer. Are there things I can be picky about? Absolutely. I can pick about a lot of things if I really want to be, super crazy about it, but visually, I'm still really liking what I'm seeing. You're gonna have people that are gonna, pick it apart in rude ways. I'm not going down that path. I'm liking a lot of what I'm seeing, despite the differences that I can notice. I'm liking a lot of what I'm seeing. So, let's do what I do. Let's go through the details. Here we go. All right, so I'm gonna turn this down first. So, I mentioned before, this particular shot is from not actually from the games. Well, it is. They had this shot on the first reveal of the Silent Hill 2 remake, on the first Silent Hill transmission years ago when they first announced the series was coming back. And this is literally the first thing we saw. And they never used it in the game, but they recreated it here, which is awesome. I'm so happy they did that. And here they recreated. This is that first for fans of the game. That first kind of iconic panning tilted shot of the urinals, just like in the games. So these little things are very much appreciated. Just like with the first movie, little nods like that go a long way, and we really like those extra efforts. And this is like at the beginning, and now what they do is they have him reading the letter in here, which is interesting. That's, again, a way of speeding up the pacing because they can't fit an 8-hour game into 1.5 hours. They have to trim the fat and cut and speed things up somehow. So now, this is the one thing I mentioned before that's disappointing, that they changed the wording of the letter. There may be reasons for that, depending on the changes to the character dynamics in the movie. But, in the original, it was, in my restless dreams, I see that town, Silent Hill. You promised you would take me there again someday, but you never did. Well, I'm alone there now, in our special place, waiting for you. And here, now that's the beginning of that game. Like, to point out why that's so important to people like me, that drew me into that game. 2001, I knew nothing about the series at all. And then when the game carries on to open the narration, and you're told that James is looking for his wife who died 3 years ago, and he got a letter, and that was his letter. So that's kind of important to us fans. We're going to be picky about that stuff. Here, they're basically saying, James, a lot of time has passed, but I'm begging that you please come back to our place. Something's happened. A big difference between the two, so I'm a little disappointed to say the least, It is what it is. They might have their reasons for it. We'll find out. Now, I want to say I love these kind of visual shots that we're seeing throughout this whole thing. This is Mary, who is now a blonde in this compared to the game where she's a brunette. In the game, Mary is a brunette. Maria looks like Mary, but has blonde hair and dresses very differently. They're kind of like very different types of visual looks to Mary, if you will. Here, they're just having Mary as a sort of a strawberry blonde, maybe. And what's interesting is she's wearing a similar dress. She doesn't have the pink cardigan sweater on top, but she is a similar dress somewhat to what she had in the games. And you have all these moths and everything in the background. Again, I don't know if this is going to be him kind of fading in and out of certain memories at some point. We don't know where this is taking place, but I love the visuals of this stuff. Another thing, and I'll talk about more about it, and I've talked about in other videos, is you don't see a wedding ring on Mary's hand. And they kind of go out of their way to not show James's hand, So is the idea that they possibly were never married? Because in all the promotional material, they've not once said James is looking for his lost wife or for his dead wife. They've only said he's looking for his lost love. We don't know anything beyond that. So this story could be significantly different. We'll see. And that, you can see that's the two of them in a past moment where they're at the Lakeview Hotel. And then that's a flashback showing the hotel's on fire. And then you see James here in a bar, it looks like, and he's waking up. So I don't know if this is at the beginning of the movie where maybe he has some kind of dream and wakes up, and then he drives into Silent Hill from there. I have a feeling that's what they're going to do. Not far off. I mean, it's kind of like how Silent Hill 3 starts with a nightmare, and then Silent Hill 1 kind of has what they made you think was a nightmare. So my guess is all the extras that we saw in the IMDb credits are probably from scenes like this. We'll find out. And there you go. All right. So you got James in the opening scene in the game where he's looking in the mirror, puts his hands in front of his face, kind of touches it to see, is this real? Am I real? That kind of thing. And that's exactly what the shot is. And here you go. You got James walking through the forest at the very beginning where he, comes out of the bathroom, gets a map, goes through the forest, makes his way through the graveyard, and then makes his way to Silent Hill. He meets Angela at the graveyard along the way, and it looks like they're doing the same thing here. and he makes his way to Silent Hill. And the visuals we are given here is that Silent Hill has been abandoned, kind of like what they had in the remake. Uh, you know, for the earlier for the original game, we never really knew for sure if the idea was that it was an abandoned town or what. They don't really clarify things like that. And whereas in here, they're giving you the impression that something happened in Silent Hill. A lot of people got sick or whatever, and the town had to be abandoned because you hear the radio broadcast on the radio there, right? So, yeah, I don't know. So the visual aesthetic is that it's been abandoned a long time, not connecting to the story of the 2006 movie at all. Two completely different things, but they still have the same sign that's become a staple that the movie established. And there you go. He's going through town again. This is visually great. Like, yeah, it's a little more blue than the games, but they have the same look, same shops, same housing. Just all the similar things you'd see in the games. Now, again, I noticed this. A warning, biohazard. I wonder if that's in reference to that broadcast we heard that, that's it's a warning. They're issuing an evacuation for Silent Hill and all surrounding areas. So is that their way of explaining why they have the scaffolding and the high fencing that blocks you off from escaping the town, and you have all the cloth everywhere? Are they doing a somewhat more literal reasoning behind that? I don't know. That wasn't in the games. That whole story aspect, that's completely new for the movie. And again, you got nice pan shots that we're getting again from different parts of the town, which I really like. And then here we go. We get to see him looking into one of the shops, and it's the flower shop, which was awesome because in the game you never got to go into the flower shop in the original. But on the remake, it's the first place you can go to in the town, and this looks identical. So I love these details, man. Now this is different. So in the game, when you get to Silent Hill, you eventually decide that you're going to go to Rosewater Park. That's because you're trying to figure out where's your place, your special place in the game. Here, it's just our place. So he figured maybe he'll meet Mary there, and it was where they eventually meet Maria. Well, here, it looks like she's just kind of walking down the street when he's yelling for someone. And now my question is, does this still take place after the first opening parts with the apartment and everything else? My guess is it does, because that's how it was in the games too. So they're probably just going to kind of speed up things and have them meet, and then maybe still have them go to the park, as a way of like, well, this is a special place, but she's not here. Well, let's go somewhere else. Oh, she's not here. So I do want to talk about something since I'm thinking about it now. A big criticism that, it included me as well, that we've been giving is, why did they have him wear a wig? The guy's natural hair would have been closer to James and would have been more blondish brown. Now he's got a big mop with dark hair. Why did they have him wear a wig? Well, that was clearly their intention from the start, because if you look at the Pre-Viz that they had, like, this is like years ago when they first announced this thing. Like, we all wonder, like, why has he got this weird hair, Well, then, if you look at where the influence comes from, it makes more sense. Silent Hill 2 is heavily influenced by Jacob's Ladder. Amazing movie from the 80s. And this is Jacob's Ladder. This is the main character with his jacket and his look and everything, and here's James. I mean, it's, almost one for one. The hair is obviously different. But then if you look at James in the movie, well, look at that. Like, I mean, they're pretty close. You know what I mean? So I'm a lot more accepting of it now, than I was at first. I'm like, you know what? Okay, can we really knock the movie for being inspired by the movie that inspired the game? You know what I mean? It's like they're coming full circle. I'm much more accepting of it now. And his jacket, I always thought was fine. For a modern day setting, this makes way more sense than, the old combat jacket from the 80s, right? So that, again, for a modern setting, that works for me. I think it's fine. Now, again, this is him when he's first getting to the town and he gets to the underpass where he hears the radio, and then he grabs the radio, and then things carry on from there. I'm wondering, is he going to hear Mary on the radio first, and that's going to draw him into there? And then he hears this evacuation order, and then Otherworld comes in? Or, I don't know how that's going to carry out, but the details here are just like in the games. It's even like Eddie's van, a modern version of Eddie's van, but it's, it's close enough for Eddie's van. It's a white van. And then there's Maria there. Now, people were so harsh on her look from the beginning. Again, is it a fake wig? Sure, but I mean, it's a bleached hair look. I mean, she's almost spot on for the character. Out of everything we've seen, she's the most game accurate thing. So, yeah, I don't like that people were being super harsh on her. I always thought she looked fine. I think it's just the bangs. The color is too bleached, and the bangs are cut straight across instead of having kind of like a parted look. But yeah, I think she looks great, and the actress sounds great. Now that we can finally hear her, I think she sounds great. And there's the radio, and we saw a homeless man on the very first leaked trailer that got out so long ago. So my guess is that's who he's talking to right now. And then something may happen to that homeless man at some point from one of the monsters. We don't know. But then this is James listening. He hears that broadcast. Maybe the siren comes on. Sorry, I got an itchy nose. And yeah, then the other world just comes in. Now, when I saw this, oh man, I got a sneeze coming. I'm trying to get it out of me here. When I saw this, I'm like, yeah, this is how you promote a movie. People watching this don't know who never played the game, don't know anything about the game. You do this, and it's like, yeah, let people know where this is coming from. Us fans really appreciate that stuff, so it gets us excited seeing this stuff. And again, this transition effect, again, I think it looks good. It's actually really detailed. It's just, again, when you have a foggy look like this and then this switching over, there's such a contrast that it's hard for it to look, in our minds, realistic, because it's not realistic, right? It just isn't. And anytime you have a fog lit environment, everything else is kind of hard to make look realistic in comparison. But I still think it's a very cool effect. Of all time, when I saw it, I was like, yeah, that's how you say it, man. Like, let people know. And there you go. You got James with his pendants there. Let's see there. So it looks like a guy on a horse. Some people joked it might be War Horse, which is a movie that the main actor was in before. And then he's got his other pendant there, which we joked about, maybe that's a channeling stone, as an Easter egg, So again, this is early in the movie. He doesn't have the pocket flashlight yet, but he did find the radio. And then you can see all the barriers. Again, all of this is actually green screen behind him. They've done a great job at compositing this, because half of it was real props. The other half, when the camera pans around, was just green screen, and they did a good job of putting it all together. And there you go. We got a lying figure. I've talked about this in previous videos. It's not exactly one-to-one for the games. As a fan, we always get disappointed with stuff like that, But if I ignore that, I'm like, well, it's still very much in the spirit of the games. Only it's much, much more feminine accented, which is very much in line with the themes of this. We don't have the high heels, the platform shoes, which everyone notices, so that's a bit of a disappointing thing. But the look is very cool. Like, they had a contortionist actor doing this. Now, I don't know if, they have their arms pinned back or if they just digitally erased them. I'm not sure. But, I mean, it looks like a lying figure, It's got the weird trapped in your skin type look, and it's got the opening part here where it shoots goo out. We saw in other trailers the back is super detailed with bones and stuff like that. Really gross looking details, So yeah, it may not be one-to-one, but I've said before, if you don't make it, if you're not going to make it the same, at least make it cool. And I mean, in my opinion, they've done that with the lion figure here. And there you go. You got the Otherworld. That whole panning shot coming around. That's kind of cool. That takes a lot of work to make that look convincing. I like the effect. It's just this part here where the darkness is kind of fading in the rest. That does stand out. But the actual effect with the animated roots and all that kind of stuff, or veins, I'm not sure what they're supposed to be. That actually looks cool. You know what I mean? Like, this is what I mean. Like this part here, like, the kind of yeah. So there we go. That's a Lakeview Hotel on fire. That's possibly towards the end, is what we're thinking, and that James is going to be rushing through that at some point. Again, people could complain. It says it looks too computery. Again, when you have fog and you composite stuff in the background, it's going to have kind of like that almost lens flare type look, right? And there you go. That's that same hotel. Everything's on fire. Now in the game, the story is that the hotel did burn down years ago. They're probably taking that more literally as a story mechanic to have James driven through and to do different things. We'll see how that goes. So that's James running like crazy. Now, again, I think that's them using the volume, which they used a lot in this. They probably have him on like some kind of treadmill or something, just running. And then the volume, which is a virtual set. It's a cylindrical, large room that has a virtual screen, and then the background is like a real time, almost like a video game that they can, track with the camera in real time, so they don't have to build a whole bunch of sets, and they can do stuff all in one shot. They don't have to green screen it. They don't have to do anything. It's just all one take. They can save a lot of time, a lot of money, and they can change up stuff dynamically on the fly if they want. It's used in like The Mandalorian on Disney Plus and other shows now. So yeah, so they use that for a lot in here. There you go. Again, I think he looks great there, like with the jacket and his look and everything. So that's still early on. Like I said, he didn't get the flashlight yet, so he's got his cell phone, which I'm glad he did that. I mean, everyone would have a cell phone and use it as a flashlight in a modern day setting, right? And eventually he's going to have to lose it and get the normal flashlight, right? So I'm glad they kind of did both instead of just not have him use a cell phone as his flashlight throughout the whole movie. Now, I don't know what that's supposed to be, He sees this creepy image, Oh, that's a mannequin. I'm pretty sure that's what that is. That's one of the mannequins we saw in the other part of the trailer. Okay, and then it fades out. Oh, is that naked boobies? I don't know. It might be, actually, because that's what it looks like. The mannequin looks like it's an actual naked, like, weird, creepy woman, So we'll see. I just noticed that. Wow, okay. Okay, so here we go. We had the first big shot of the town in the other world, and James is running away. Now, I pointed out that, one, the aesthetic is different in the games in that they have this sort of reddish-orange lit up, sky in the background, instead of it being pitch black and then only having the light sources, right? It works great for a movie, so I'm okay with that. If it makes a cool visual aesthetic, I'm okay with that. And it's not that far off from some of the aesthetics in the remake, at least. The other thing I noticed was that instead of it being raindrops on things, I'm like, there must be something crawling all over these things, and I assumed it was going to be a bunch of creeper bugs. I was talking about that in the previous video, and sure enough, James is running through the town on the other world, and look at that. You got the creeper bugs are everywhere, and they're big, just like in the first movie and just like in the games, so they're going to be everywhere. And I think Gant said that was one of the few things he used CG for monsters. Obviously, you'd have to in this case, right? And they're just everywhere. And I love that shot, just like the other one they showed where you could see James like running down the town, and we're underneath looking up at him. Like, I love this. There's so much of this in this movie that I'm really going to love. And there he is, running down the street with, again, the Otherworld grates and all that. It's a cool aesthetic. I like it. And here we go. We got Evie. Now, her character, Evie Templeton. Sorry, it's Laura. Her character's name is Laura, played by Evie Templeton, who played Laura in the Silent Hill 2 remake. She's obviously a little older, a little taller. and her character seems to be very different here. You know, in the games, Laura was just someone that knew Mary, and you didn't know until the very end how she knew Mary, but she was just basically a little girl. And here, she's a little older, and she might be kind of like the sage wisdom. You know what I mean? Like you just see her, she just kind of says some wise things, and kind of like the Morgan Freeman type character. And that so it's going to be probably a very different character. Like she's going to do same things as the games, but she's still probably going to be a different character. And not just that, what is this that she's got in her hands? It looks like, I don't know if it's a baby. Like look at it. It's because it's got a little hand here, a little head, scraggly little hairs, and beady big beady black eyes. What is that? And it's got like like a cracked open head or something. It just looks weird, man. Like look at it. Yeah, it's moving. That's what we saw looking through the keyhole in the previous trailer. And I'm like, what is that? So that's completely new for this movie. Nothing like that in the games at all. She had a teddy bear in the games. She's just a normal kid. So yeah, very different character here. I'm sure for her as an actor, that was kind of fun to play that. Now here's Pyramid Head with his new stone-based knife. Instead of it being a big blade, it looks different, and it looks like it's made out of stone in this. And I'll talk a little more about that later. As fans, we hate changes, we hate differences. But again, if you're gonna make it different, make it cool. And I mean, it is kind of cool. We'll see how it plays out. Like I like how it's breaking up the ground as it goes along. Now here we go. We've got Maria. And I assume this is her and James in the hospital. In the games, when you get up to the hospital, the two of you, it went from being foggy outside to more of a sundown look, right? It was the only game that really had that. And it kind of we didn't think much of it until the remake came out, and the remake definitely made use of that. And so here, this is where the Otherworld's taking over, which is a little different than how they did it in the games, but we'll see. Come on. Excuse me. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that, guys. That was building up for a while there. All right. So, yeah, you can see the other world's taking over while they're both there. So instead of having Maria go take a nap and then the other world takes over and then you meet up with her later, they're just kind of skipping all that, and they're going to have both of you go through that together. I mean, I get it. For the pacing of the movie, it makes sense. Now, this is Pyramid Head. And he, again, looks a little different in the back, but for the most part, it's a similar aesthetic. He's not buff Pyramid Head. Some people thought he was like the first movie where he's gigantically muscular. No, he's just a normal size. He just has the creepy look to him. And then there's James and Mary in the hospital running down the hallways. Now, again, like look at this. This looks excellent. Like, as far as what you would expect Silent Hill 2 to look like in live form. I mean, here he is. He's got a green jacket, flashlight. He's got what looks like a bent pipe, I think, similar to the games. And then Maria's running with it. The sets all look fantastic, like the practical sets and the virtual sets too. But I mean, this is exactly what you'd expect. Maybe a little hyper detailed compared to the original game, but compared to the remake, this is all in line with it. So they did a great job. Now here we go with all the nurses in what looks like a foyer area. Now, again, this is another example of the volume virtual set, right? Everything on the floor is real. The nurses are real. But everything back there is just that curved screen that changes its view to match the camera, right? And it lights up everything around it, so you don't need a green screen, you don't need compositing, you don't need any of that. But here we go, we got all the nurses. Now, I'm going to say, okay, the nurses do look great. Their faces are different, and as fans, we hate changes. We just do, and I've nitpicked like crazy. But I'm just going to say they still did a great job with how they look. The details, everything else. Like they now have the leggings, just like in the remake. They're all kind of grodied up looking. They all have their weapons. They have a similar head, but the faces are different. That's the only thing that's really different. But they go through with all these extra details, and these poor girls, man, they're contortionists and dancers and all that. And, I mean, they go out of their way to just do all these scenes. In the games, they did do the twitching, but only in certain positions. they didn't do it with every single move. So they're kind of doing that again with this, like they did in the first movie. So we'll see how this scene goes. I don't know if they have to get past him or not, but we'll see how this goes. Like, there's no way to not have the nurses look a little goofy, in live form. There's just no way to get around that. No, again, I don't know what's up with this nurse, man. Maybe that one's reacting to the light, and then the rest of them fall in line. And here we go. We gotta look at Eddie. Eddie's a very different look compared to the games. In the games, he looked like an adult boy with a ball cap and shorts, Whereas in here, he just looks like a grungy dude, who hasn't been taking care of himself. And then my guess is this is the scene where he was throwing up in the toilet. you know, my guess is he's gonna be the comic relief of the movie. And there you go. Like, again, like, I love the details they put into the outfits and all that. Like, that looks great. And this looks creepy and cool. It's just so different. That's all. I don't want the people who put on all the work to think that, we don't appreciate that. Because we do. It's just, it's different. That's all. I mean, the details are gross. It's gross and nasty, Although, where is it? Where's my favorite? Oh, there it is. My favorite nurse in the background here. And it just looks like the holes make it look like a face that's going, wah! I don't know why that makes me laugh, but it does. All right. And again, Maria looks fine. Like, she's got the full details, just like in the game. Her hair is the only thing that kind of stands out a little different. But, both of them. Both their wigs are the only thing that, to me, stands out. And there's Eddie with, it's probably him and James in the apartment when James is trying to get the key through the bars, is my guess. And then Pyramid Head appears and then scares the crap out of him. Now, I think this is James and Maria running away from the nurses in the hospital, and then eventually they'll get through that doorway and then it'll barricade it or something like that. And now, here's Pyramid Head appearing. This kind of shot and scare bit is fine, but they made the one big thing a mistake they never should have done is you should never see underneath his helmet. That's his head, by the way. It's not a helmet that he wears. That's his physical head. And they show the bottom, which they never should do that. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, like, we never see that in the games. It's a mystery. They should have kept it that way. That's the only major fail I've seen for me personally. Now, you can see the details of Pyramid Head. He doesn't have the puppet hand like he did in the games. Fun fact, Masahiro Ito, the guy who designed all the monsters, said that he originally wanted Pyramid Head to have a full hand with fingers, but on the PlayStation 2, they were limited with how many, rigged bones they could use in the skeletons on the models for the animation. So, common thing to do back then was just to make the whole fingers as one thing that moves and one thumb. So he just did it as three. And we thought that was it was purposely designed to make him look like he had three fingers, so it kind of became his look over the years. But then in the Silent Hill 2 remake, they just did a bit of both. They kept the puppet hand look, but then they had all the fingers still within it. So, you know what I mean? Like, that was a great mix. Here, they're not doing that. It is what it is. All right, now this is something I really like. This is James in the hospital. Now, it seems like they're doing the thing that they did with Silent Hill 1 with Harry, where he would get headaches. And Heather, too, as a matter of fact. They'd get headaches, and then all of a sudden the other world would start coming in. In this one, it seems like whenever he gets some kind of truth or something's going on that is significant to him, he gets all headaches, and then, in this case, the other world takes over. But look how it's doing it. This is very interesting. He reaches down, and then the other world spreads from him and starts moving out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's this effect looks great, by the way. Like, the way it looks sort of slimy and glossy, and you can see the light reflecting on it. Like, that looks great, to be honest. And I'm wondering what's on the floor. Like, is that the thing that Laura was holding by chance? Because in the game, he met with Laura. She trapped him in a closet, or locked him in a room, I mean. And then you fought the Flesh Lips, which unfortunately I don't think we're going to see in this movie. Maybe we will, but I doubt we will. And then the Otherworld transition happens. Now in that one, it was only you passing out, and then it's like you're on a hospital bed being rolled down a hallway, and then the Otherworld transition takes place during that time. Here, they're having it literally come from James in a similar manner as the janitor monster in the 2006 movie, which I always thought that was a cool effect. And here, I think this looks great. I think this looks really good. Then you got Pyramid Head there in the hallway, and he's trying to bash his way through, you know. And that looks pretty cool. Now, this shot here is funny. It's a stairway going up and some kind of door. I don't know if that's meant to be a cellar or not, but I almost thought this was that spot in the game where you went through the underpass and there was a stairway that led up, but then there's a barrier at the top, which is just a fence, like a horizontal fence. It looks odd. It looks weird, you know, and I thought that's what this was at first, you know. I don't think it is, but maybe that's a nod to that. Who knows? See, again, this is what I'm talking about. These angled panning shots they're using here a lot, just like in the games. Well, more so in the original game. They're doing a lot of that here, which is great. I love it. And this is James, you know, meeting Laura. I don't know if that's in the apartments or that's the hospital. It's honestly, it's hard to tell. But that's Laura. She's probably got her creepy little living baby doll creepy thing. And she's giving her sage wisdom. He's saying, "Where is she?" And then now this is the scene where James is at the apartments, and he finds a mannequin. Now the mannequin room is significant in the games. You find a mannequin with a flashlight and a dress like his wife's. Here, he seems to find a similar mannequin. All of a sudden, a bunch of moths and everything are coming in. So every time that happens in this movie, something significant happens. It seems like it at least. And if we look, I don't know if they'll show the details. Yeah, see, so now a light comes on that catches his attention, right? And it's in what looks like a closet. So my guess is they're kind of combining all of that. They're having it where he goes into the mannequin room, but then a light comes on to catch his attention. He follows it, in this case, into the closet. But then Pyramid Head is probably going to appear. And then he closes it up and tries to hide from him. Excuse me. You know, again, they have to make things go faster in a movie, right? They don't have time for everything. But if you look, that dress is different than the one Mary was wearing earlier in the trailer, the white dress, right? This is more of a dark black dress with flowers. Now, we did see Mary in the previous trailer in the hotel when it was on fire wearing that same dress. It looked like Mary at least. But then in this trailer, I'll talk about when we get to it. It looks like Angela's wearing that same dress at some point, and it's weird. So I don't know what, you know, are they going with the whole Laura and Angela are different representations of Mary for some reason? They might be doing that. I don't know. I hope they don't do that. And you got a creeper bug here. And then here you go. This is like when he's walking at the beginning, down the path, through the forest, by the graveyard, and he meets Angela here. And that seems to be what's going on. And then more sage wisdom from Laura. And then here you go. I think that's that mannequin you saw early on in that stairwell there. You know, now the mannequins in the games are completely different. They have legs in the bottom, but then they have legs in the top. They're not like a naked looking woman, but you know they're just weird and creepy. And the remake mannequins were absolutely fantastic. They were so fun. Here it's something completely weird and creepy and different. It looks like a normal woman's body in the bottom, but then the top head looks like this weird creepy thing. Okay, so this particular shot I was happy to see because when they announced this thing years ago, they showed Pre-Viz shots, right? This is the one they showed that stood out to me more than anything. I was like, oh, they're on their way to the hospital, and they show all these hospital beds leading to the hospital. That's kind of weird, you know? And sure enough, like if you go back, here, let's do it side by side here. Okay? So if you go here, Again, they're showing how the Pre-Viz works. The shot of the two of them walking, and then they go by the sign, which is this here. And then they go to the next shot, which is them going to the hospital. And I mean, look at it. Oh, get back there. But yeah, look at it side by side. Like, I love how Pre-Viz and stuff like that works. You know what I mean? Like, this is what they envisioned years ago before they filmed a single thing. And then this is exactly how it looks in the movie. I love seeing that. Like, even the trees, the hospital, like, all of it. I love it. I love that stuff. Now, we saw this in the previous trailer. Like, he's behind bars. It looks like maybe a sewer or something like that. I don't know exactly what. Is this supposed to be the labyrinth equivalent for this movie? And then instead of seeing Maria behind bars, maybe he's seeing Mary, because he's screaming Mary here, right? Like, I don't know. Like, I could be far off on this. There might be a lot of scenes that we don't get from the games in there, so who knows? Now, this is what I was talking about before, okay? That's that same dark dress that the mannequin was wearing, the same dress we saw Mary in blonde hair in one of the hallways of the hotel being on fire wearing. But then here, this looks like, to me, like who is possibly Angela. But Angela's wearing that same kind of dress, right? And then it looks like they're on top of, I don't know, some kind of fabric or a bed, or I don't know what exactly. And then characters grabbing them, pulling them down. You know what I mean? So again, like I said, I don't know where they're going with this. It's completely different than the games. And then there's that same effect, possibly at the hospital when it's taking over, and then all the moths and everything are coming in again, right? So the other world's taken over. And then this is when he meets Angela, just like in the games. Same room, giant mirror room. Angela is mostly dressed the same. Her sweater's dark instead of being white, but mostly the same. I think she's got a wig too. I think everyone's got a wig except for Laura. Now, oh yeah, and by the way, and she's got her traditional knife there as well. So this is one of the things that caught our attention, though. This is new. Like, we saw the first teaser trailer where they showed this scene of someone being carried by a bunch of people, and we didn't know what the heck it was. Now, maybe, is this supposed to be Mary with her disease, maybe? And, like, is this more, something visual, not what's actually going on? Yeah, I have no explanation except maybe this is Mary with her disease. That's the only thing I can even think of. And there you go. That's James early on in the TV room. He's drawn at the apartments to a TV. It's got some VHS tapes lying on the floor, foreshadowing, obviously. And then he's got his cell phone there, getting another headache because of whatever's on the TV. We don't have the bed, or not the bed. We don't have the body in the chair. It seems, So, not sure how they're handling this. And then he drops his flashlight, or I mean his phone that he's using for a flashlight. Probably breaks it, and then from that point on, he needs another one, right? Yeah, you can see it's on the floor. Again, is this a bed? What is this over here? Is that the equivalent of the chair with the body? We don't know, right? So you can see, whatever's going on there, James doesn't like it. I'm wondering what we're going to hear during that time. And then here's James busting through a door to run away from something somewhere. And he's got the flashlight there. Now, I love this. See, like, we've gone from such, just decayed, horrible-looking environments to some surreal-looking environments like the town. And then you get moments like this where it's just, again, like we saw Mary before, right? Just looking so pretty and beautiful. And this is her in her jacket, not the dress as well, right? So she's a blonde, again. It's weird to get used to, but, I'm coming around to it. I think she looks great. And there she is. But then, boom, she's underwater with weird, creepy-looking eyes and all that, So is that some foreshadowing? Like, what's that all about, right? So and then we see what looks like James jumping in the water. Well, not jumping in the water. Maybe we don't know, depending on what ending to go with. we don't know for sure what that's going to be. And then you see him in the water, and then what looks like a whole bunch of pages of something surrounding him. Is that the rebirth ceremony? Who knows? It's not the letter. It's a lot more than just a letter. And then room 318. Now in the game, it was not 318 where that was your special room at the hotel where you played the videotape. I think that was 312. I think it is. 318 had the can of paint in the remake, so maybe they're just using whatever number they are. It's not significant in terms of the same one in the game. But that's probably what this door is my guess. And then here you got James here. He looks pretty roughed up, and he's not having a good day. He's, yeah, not doing so well. If I had to guess, this might be him looking at the abstract daddy. The reason why I say that is because in the behind the scenes footage, we saw him on the ground just like that in the abstract daddy room. And we didn't see the abstract daddy prop yet, but my guess is it's that same scene. Now, this is a pretty cool scene here. So you can see James, this is the hotel, probably towards the end of the movie, and he's approaching and he sees his bed. We've seen that in the games, like something in a bed with a sheet over top of it, So that's very similar to the games. And then you see it erupting in fire, So I wonder, is this towards the end, or is it maybe a flashback dream? Maybe the nightmare he has at the beginning? Who knows? But that's still a very cool aesthetic, Is it rising up? Like, not sure. And there's James. Super sad. And oh, yep, and we've talked about that before. Get back there. Did I miss it? Okay. We've seen those arms in another shot, reaching down to grab James. So my guess is that's possibly the end monster, maybe. Grabbing at him at different points to take him to different parts of wherever in Silent Hill he needs to go. Is this the pyramid heads in the background fading away? Like who knows? But it's still a cool shot. And there we go. We got the wonderful font. This looks a lot better the way this is presented. And then there you go. The final shot. My guess is that's James hiding in the closet. It's just a weird kind of opening to have, but that's most likely what this shot is. He went into that closet to follow the flashlight. Pyramid Head shows up and then he closes it up. But the flashlight is still there, lighting everything up, so who knows. So yeah, and then that's basically the end. And they of course they mentioned, music by Akira, which I'm glad they did. It's his music throughout every game in the series except for Downpour. The first movie used his music, but it was various different bits of music thrown in. On this one, they're probably going to use mostly the Silent Hill 2 music because it fits perfectly, and all the new music he created for possibly this movie first, which also got included with the remake soundtrack. So that's it. Yeah, in theaters in January. So besides that, all those details that we went through. There's been other media they've been starting to release, whether it be pictures or character posters or things like that. Like way back, the first image we got from the movie was this. So obviously not a final shot, more of a just composited shot just to start promotion. And we all noted that while Pyramid Head looks not 1-to-1, he's somewhere between the first movie and the game, somewhere in between that. I'm fine with most of the look. I just didn't like the holes here. It just looks like a cheese grater. And his knife, again, looking like a stone serrated knife, instead of like a big blade. So that was the first thing we saw way back. So now, this is obviously him, in a different shot. Again, if I don't compare it 1-to-1, I still think it looks cool. This is the first official poster we've gotten, and that's that same scene you saw at the end of James most likely hiding in the closet. And if you zoom in, oh, who's that? That's Mr. Pyramid Head. Yeah. So that's the first one we've gotten there. Oh, you know what I just realized? This new trailer didn't have the tagline. The "You live here now." The previous trailer had it. The ones before that had it. But they didn't have it in this one, which is interesting. Yeah. I wonder if they realized that too many people were talking or complaining about that, or I kind of not complained, but I was like, what does that mean? It could mean a lot of things. So it's a weird trailer or a tagline for it, but yeah. So, anyways, now I talked about the cast before. So you have obviously James. Now I don't consider IMDb reliable until after a movie's been released, right? So take this. This may not be fully accurate. Obviously James, and then you have Mary and see they don't even mention Maria here. So yeah, so it's not even updated in that respect. But she's playing Mary and Maria, right? And then of course Red Pyramid. Pyramid had Laura played by Evie and Eddie, and then we had this actress who played at first they only mentioned Caitlin. Now it's updated to Caitlin slash Angela. So does that mean she's playing two different characters or two different personalities? We don't know, so we'll find out. Everyone else is all new. Nothing to do with the games at all. So this character here, Dara, is the only significant one we've kind of heard anything about. We don't know anything about her, but I'm guessing she's the one in the trailer that's talking to James, saying, you don't know what kind of hell you have waiting for you. So maybe she's, some significant person in James' life that's trying to tell him, don't go looking for her. You don't know what you have in store for you, and she knows something he doesn't. My guess is like at the bar, maybe he has a bunch of friends that he talks to. Who knows what? We'll see how that plays out. We really have no idea. But she's been hanging around, the Silent Hill fandom, like the social media groups and whatnot, and she's super excited for everyone. She's a fan, so I mean, good on her. Like we'll see how it turns out. So yeah, that's the cast that we know so far, and these are the character posters. Okay, so let's just go with that here. So that's new music. Don't remember that in the games. When I first saw this, I thought it was Anakin Skywalker from Star Wars Episode 3. And, then it occurred to me that that's what the wig made me think of. Because, Hayden Christensen also had to wear a similar wig for that movie. So the whole time it kept bugging me, like, who does he remind me of? That's who it was. And then you got Mary. Now it's interesting. They almost gave her James's look, like a jacket almost similar to what James wore in the original game, and blonde hair. You know what I mean? Instead of having her having brown hair, so that's interesting. And yeah, she also has blue eyes. I didn't think they'd have an eye change at all, like they did in the game, but we'll see. And then of course Maria. And spot on. I mean, almost identical to the game, except for the hair is a little different. It is a wig, but the bangs are a little different in my opinion. But the rest, spot on, man. And then we got Laura here. And that music, very, very, popular music used for the games, is another new remix for this movie specifically. So that's like the fourth, I think, remix we've had for that song. But yeah, again, I think it's just the lighting and the makeup. They kind of make Laura look like she's super tired. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but yeah, because the actor doesn't normally look like that, and she's holding that creepy doll, whatever that thing is. I don't know what that is. Like it looks alive, whatever it is, and she's wearing a dress similar to Mary, which in the games she did. Again, I think it's intentional that her, possibly Angela, and Mary all have similar dresses that kind of change up from this white looking dress to a dark black looking equivalent dress, right? So that's, I don't know, I just find that interesting. And now we got one for Pyramid Head. Again, all new music for the movie, but all by Akira. So again, sounds great. Again, if I'm not comparing one to one, I think this looks great. To be honest, except for the holes here, I think the entire thing looks great. They kind of didn't go for the traditional butcher apron, and they made the sword into like a rock chiseled instead of a steel blade, So it's just interesting differences, Almost looks like almost Egyptian in a way, right? And that was about it. Now they don't have any for Eddie or Angela yet. They might, and maybe they'll have one for other monsters. Who knows? But that's it. That's the only major stuff that stood out to me as far as what's been released for media and everything so far. Uh, I don't know if there's gonna be more stuff between now and the end of January. If there's something significant, I might make a video about it. But yeah, I mean that's a bit of a long video, but I wanted to go through the details again. I mean, I only get one chance to do this after the movie comes out. Well, then we're all going to know everything, right? So, thanks for watching. I'm excited for the movie coming out. Again, as a fan, yes, I don't like changes. I'm going to be picky about it. But I'm going in and watching this as an alternate Silent Hill 2 ish story, doing its own thing with the main themes, but, a different take on it. And I'll just take it as that, and I hope everyone else does too, instead of just crapping on it for the sake of anything that's different. Hopefully I'll have a good reaction, and I'm excited for it. So, everyone involved making this movie, know that many fans out there are very excited for this. We're going to pick apart stuff, but we are still very excited. A lot of stuff I've seen is looking great, So I hope the movie turns out great, and I'm excited to see it. So thanks for watching, guys. See you in my, whatever video I do next. Bye.